Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of On the Flip Side. Happy Canada Day. I hope you guys had an awesome Canada Day. And let's get started. So, on the flip side, we have it every Monday. On the first Monday of every month, it's all about mindset. And every other Monday after that, it's anything about real estate. My name is Diana Lizarazo, and today's guest speaker is Jacqueline Francis. Now, before we get started, I want to share some exciting news with you. We have a social networking platform for the real estate investing industry. If you are an investor, if you're a mentor, or you are a professional, you want to be a part of this transformative platform that will help you to get to just transform the way you work. You have search engines that are just optimized to help you find the right people for you. You have a public calendar where you can see what's going on, or you can post the events that you have going on. There's so much there. There's so much to help support and help people collaborate. So if you want to get on this platform, then you want to go on REI FAM. It's realestateinvestorfam.com. Get on there, install the app, create your free account, and have some fun. Get meeting some new investors. Now back to the show. On the flip side, our guest speakers are here to share their knowledge with you, to share their experiences with you. So if you guys are ready to bring on Jacqueline, let's send her some thumbs up, some hearts, some fire, and let's get her on the stage. Let's. I don't know what's going on Instagram these days. Let's see, Jacqueline. Can you see my request? So I'm going to send it this way because I noticed. Oh, there we go.
Oh, wait a second. That's not what we want. Hello.
Hey.
I gotta just move around. Hello there. Hope you had an amazing long weekend.
Pardon?
Hope you had an amazing long weekend.
Yes, it was good. Hope you had the same. Lots of family stuff. Decompressing from the weekend.
I know. Actually, this long weekend has been a little bit different for us. We are getting ready to transition into a move. So we're getting ready to move. And so it's been a very interesting journey on prepping and getting all the things done. So pretty much that's what our focus was on this long weekend. Very different from all the other ones, but so it goes.
But moving forward, which is always a great thing. Actually, one of my other friends are moved over the long weekend too. I guess the long weekend is kind of nice to put it in there because it gives you an extra day, and then if you take off more time, it's just not too bad, right?
I love that. Absolutely. It makes sense, right?
Yeah. So what is our topic for today? What are we talking about today?
So I definitely think it's important to touch just on this. When it comes to a major move in your life, and people's situations vary. There are people that have moved several times in their lifetime. There's people like me that we've lived in our current home for 14 years, and this is going to be the first move that we've done in 14 years. So this is a perfect topic to talk about, like, how do we cultivate a positive mindset around moving? Because I'm experiencing right now anxiety, a little bit of fear, a little bit of worry. So it's all of these things that can creep in, and then it can overwhelm you. It can take you in a whole different direction instead of getting your mind right on noticing and understanding what's at hand, the move, what goodness it's going to bring to you, right? Like trying to look at what the positive is during that time. So it makes the transition a lot easier.
Yeah, I agree with that. So what kind of things did you find out during the moving process that you found out, and the things that you're trying to implement, like you said, to make that process a lot easier?
So we haven't moved yet. We're moving in the next 2 weeks. And for us, it was getting clear on the move, right? Understanding, okay, we have the timelines, 2 weeks, so it was about like almost a month that we had. And getting like your head wrapped around the fact that, okay, where am I going to start? Because when you think about a home and how much stuff that you have that have collected and built up over the last 14 years, it like I can feel it. I could like at one point I felt it in my body, like, wow, where do I start? Oh my goodness. I have to pack all this stuff in boxes. But I really had to like that self-talk was so critical for me. Coming back to being able to like regulate my nervous system, taking walks, I found was very helpful. Getting my mind clear on one task at a time. So my mind's not just going, oh my God, the kitchen, the bedroom, the this, the that. It's like bringing myself back to what's important. Okay, we're going to start in the basement. Start small, right? You don't have to think, oh my gosh, I got to pack this entire house or this whole upstairs in a matter of like hours. Because the minute you start to think that, the minute your mind is going to race a mile a minute and tell you all the things that are not really going to support you or that you need to actually do what you need to get done in a good and calm and safe manner.
Mm-hmm. You know what's so funny? Look what I'm reading right now.
Oh, The Power of Now. Oh, I heard that's a great book.
It is amazing. I am obsessed with it. Actually, you know what? There's another one that I read just before it. I just finished this one. I feel like both of these are good for
The
what you're
game,
doing
the game of life
and how
and
to
how
play
to
it.
play it. Oh, yes. You know what? I have her entire series.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes. I'm so
Those
excited to
two
read her
books.
books.
Yeah, I actually so I don't buy books unless if I love them. So the fact that I have these, because I'll usually just get the PDF. Because I like reading older books where they're on PDF anyways and they're free. But if I find a book I love, I don't care. I'm buying it because it's just like you start marking it up like crazy. Just so many notes, and I feel like this is so exactly what we're talking about, and one of the things in there, well, I'll give an example. This one actually I heard on YouTube, but they basically talk about the power of now is what you were basically saying, like just be in the now is basically what you're saying, it's like and they gave an even simpler example of washing the dishes. Like a lot of people get like stressed about like, oh my God, like I have so many dishes to wash and it's like so much and then you just kind of dwell and dwell and dwell. And 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 so you're making that whole experience of washing the dishes worse for you because you're thinking of the past of all the other times and how irritated you were at all those other times of having to wash the dishes. And so they give this example of you can't wash all the dishes at the same time. You can only wash one dish. Like you said, one task. And they said that take that one dish and just focus on that one dish and do something that makes it fun for you. So for him, it was like he loved dancing. So he would just think of being creative with the plate and dancing with the plate on the sink and just like moving it around and cleaning it and making the experience
Oh,
more fun for him to actually wash that dish. And he would never think more than that one dish. He would just clean that one dish and then put it away, like put it to dry or whatever he would do, and then go to the next dish. And it was basically what you're saying, right? That just focus on the one task
yeah.
and 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 just that because if you're thinking because if you're dwelling on the whole thing like the whole house getting like moving and like that is a very scary thing to do, right? It's just like you're having to move and you're just thinking everything. It's like you said, just focus on one part and get it done because it doesn't sound so daunting.
And I love that in that book it shares like what can you do to make the experience more enjoyable. Like if you can see here, all my stuff is some of the stuff that I've taken out of my cupboards I've left here, right? So in my mind, I'm like, how can I make this experience more fun? I'm going to throw on some music while I have to pack all of these individually in some sort of like paper wrapping or bubble foam or something like that, right? So I'm like, how can I make this more fun and allow the time to go by while I'm focusing on right here, right now, instead of like, because it's so easy for your mind to just wander and be like, oh my gosh, okay, I got to put this, but then, where's it going to go? And when I get there, where's it like, it can literally spiral. So for anyone that's watching, be mindful of what your mind is, the direction that it's taking you. Because when you can become aware of when your mind leaves the present moment, you have to be able to bring it back. Bring it back to the here and the now and the task at hand. So for me, being able to put away these dishes, instead of thinking that when I get there, where is it going to go? Or how are these going to be transported? Will something break? I really have to focus on one dish, one cup, one glass at a time and be like, okay, you know what? This is great. And it's what you tell yourself. I found has been really helpful to me as well. Like, everything's going to be great. I'm really excited for this new move. Instead of the negative feeding you things that you do not want to then give your energy to.
Have you read the magic book, the magic word, sorry? It's a chapter in a book, but that one is a lot about your attitude. The magic word is basically attitude. And it's very interesting because in that book, they talk about basically your emotions. Like, what is your attitude like when you're actually doing that thing? And not even during, it actually talks about what is that feeling, that emotion that you feel instantly of the thought. So, for example, moving, what is that emotion? And if it's usually a negative one, you're just like, oh my God, this is not good. But you have to, even before getting started, it's learning to change that mind, because as soon as your mind is like, this is so much work, this is a lot, and I don't like it, how is the experience going to be? Your mind is already set to that attitude of like, it's going to be a lot of work. I'm going to get so annoyed with my family because like my kids are probably not going to help. And like you're full telling yourself all the story. And then what happens? You're making it true for yourself,
Yeah.
And also
Self-fulfilling prophecy. Self-fulfilling prophecy. What you think about the situation is what you're going to create. So that's exactly what you're going to see.
Mm-hmm. So it's like that. Like, imagine if you're saying like, oh, my kids probably won't even help. The reason they probably won't is because they feel your energy of them pushing you away, right? Of them being like, oh my God, she's probably going to be like screaming at me. I'd rather just go somewhere else, Or she's going to be like so it's like you don't even realize, because you said that how it's going to go, your energy and everything around it, you won't even know it. But the people notice. So I mean, you say like, "Oh, is everything okay?" You're showing it already, right?
Exactly. So even that thought, like, oh, the kids are not going to help, to have that and to say that to myself, and then when I'm like doing the packing and they come to ask me, you're right, I'm going to subconsciously act in a way that's going to support that thought and that belief, right? So I'm going to be like, no, guys, no, don't worry. Like the irritableness, the irritation will come up. And then you're right, that's exactly what I'm going to end up seeing. That I'll be like, oh, I knew it. No one's going to help me. So how do we avoid our mind taking over when we're going through, like, this is a major life change in my family. And I don't know how long ago you moved and what that experience was like. But when we are facing these, like, situations that we've not faced maybe in a long time, it's very important to keep your mind focused on the good in the situation, and taking it like step by step. Because if you don't, like, I had the belief at one point that like I didn't like moving, and I only moved from my parents' house into this house, right? So like we moved like maybe one room compared to like now a whole house. And I chose not to focus on what that experience was like, because I remember for a long time I would tell people, oh, I remember that time that I moved and it was like this and it was like that. But during this time, I chose not to allow that emotion and that feeling of the past play into my present.
Mm-hmm. And you know what they say, actually? They say emotions are the record of the past. So
Yes.
it
Yeah.
is very true, exactly what you're saying, because, you know, something happened, and if you're, let's say, doing it again now, or even, for example, my case. So my parents always lived in the house, same house, all my life. So I never moved. So for me, my mind was, I never want to, like, I want to buy my place, and I was thinking I want to buy my forever home, like a big house, so I never have to complain about anything. That didn't end up happening. Not rich enough, sadly. But then, for example, like you said, like we moved twice,
Yeah.
um, and and for me, it wasn't the during process, um, but it was definitely so the packing. I don't know why. I actually enjoy packing because I enjoy the whole throwing away
Yeah.
part.
Oh,
That
yes.
part really
Wow.
excites me because then I can like reorganize. So I actually love being able to throw things away. I even go through purges in my house every so often. But it
Yeah, we
was
do
the
too.
whole, especially our last move. My husband basically did it with his one of his workers, and they managed to do it all overnight. We did like one day of packing. We didn't finish it all, and him and his worker managed all day pack the rest of the house, put it in the truck, and everything into the new house. And they were done by like 5 a.m. or something. Like it was a
Oh,
crazy move. They did it all in one day. It was insane. But then we had like boxes everywhere. And at that time I was working. So we did it like during the week or something. Yeah, it must have been during the week because the workers were there. So it was just like a disaster in the house, boxes all over the main floor. And I couldn't really get to it until the weekend. I mean, we do some in the evening, but usually like you're tired after work, or you're telling yourself that at least.
yes.
And so that part was never the fun part. Like I loved actually, I liked the purging part. And I'm like, oh man, I could get rid of things. Like if I could be, I would be a minimalist. I'd have like a coffee table, for example, or like for example, the bedroom would probably have a bed, and that's
Yeah.
it. Right? It'd be just like this lonely little bed in a room because I would just be like, I would like to be so minimal. It's not, but because obviously it's not very functional. But if it were my decision, a bed, coffee table, and probably not even a table because then there's like a reason to put stuff on somewhere. And I'm like, I don't want reasons to make clutter.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. And we haven't even touched on that. I mean, the one part is dealing with the actual move, like the packing, right? Because that alone can be overwhelming. But then it's that other part of getting there and having all these boxes everywhere.
Mhm.
I found right now labeling them, and again, it's deciding room by room, like taking it in small chunks, because it's really hard to like chew off a whole elephant, right? You just chew it off
Mhm.
bit by bit, label everything. So what I'm doing is I'm putting a number on each box, and then I'm putting like a different color tape, and then I have this book where I'm like kind of like writing down what each box is going to be, and then I'll have like a section for the basement, a section for upstairs, for the kitchen, for this, for the kids room, just to make it I don't know if it's going to work because I've not moved, so I'll have to come back and share my experience on how that went. um, because in my mind, it's easier to comprehend. It's easier to get my energy behind when I'm doing it that way rather than like my mom today. She's like, "Oh, why don't you guys just bring the boxes from downstairs upstairs?" And then I was like, "No, because when we're going to actually move, I know those specific boxes will be from downstairs. So then I'll know where I want them to go when we get to the new house. Rather than if I bring them all up here, then everything's all up here."
Exactly. And it all gets like all mixed up. And I think actually boxes are even a good example of, I also have this feeling of, you know, like your outside world really shows how your inside world is. And this isn't really about moving, but it just reminds me of boxes of like, if you're very, very messy, that's like usually like you're stressed, you have anxiety or something. And that's maybe also why, to be honest, moving is so hard because things get messy while you're
It
moving in
does.
or out, which is anxiety, but it also shows like, and so maybe that's probably why also we get all anxious about moving just because you put yourself in this disorder and then you want to like organize yourself, you know? But when you're nice and organized, I don't know, at least about with me, you feel so amazing afterwards when things are put away, they have a spot. And
Yes, that's so me
things
too. Everything
with
needs
your
a home. Then
mind.
everything needs a home.
Yeah. And it's just nice because everything is in its place and it's kind of like kind of the same thing, right? If your mind is nicely ordered, you see it in your outside world and vice versa. Like if your outside world is a mess, like it shows what's
Mm-mm-mm.
going on in your
Yeah.
head. You know, your head is a mess, and it's like sometimes that outside cleaning, and I think that's why also I like purging too.
Yeah.
Is like sometimes the physical cleaning helps you just mentally clean too.
Yeah, I love that. That's so important. I want to touch on two things that you just said. So there's a book by a woman named Genevieve Behrend, and she talks about heaven's first law is order in the mind.
Mm.
Order in the mind is heaven's first law. And that's so important when you think about that, right? The mind needs to have clarity, it needs to have order. When you start looking at your home and you're about to move and things feel like they're being, out of place and they're disorderly, especially for people that are really neat and like to have like things like us, right? You need to have everything in like its own home, so to speak. It can feel like chaos is happening in your mind. So it's really coming back to, how can I bring order to my mind? So we had talked about, doing a room by room each day. We talked about labeling things in a clear, distinctive way that you're going to understand where it's going to go. Telling yourself and shifting yourself every time your mind starts to wander back to, the positive in moving, in decluttering, in what it's going to gain. Another thing that came up for me while you were speaking was the chaos, the disorganization in the home for that temporary period of time. It's almost like when we tie it back to God, universe, source, when we are going through like a major shift in our life and a transition, it has to get disorganized. It has to go through some sort of chaos in order for us to let go of the old and to bring in the new. We have to allow room and space for the expansion. And that's going to look like disorganization. That's going to look like a little bit of chaos, boxes everywhere. And, the house is just, it really is sort of upside down for a temporary moment. And I keep bringing myself back to that and telling myself, this is for my good. This is happening for, growth. This is happening for this new level that I'm about to reach once we go through the move. And I think that's a great way for other people to also look at it if you're able to, because the chaos doesn't necessarily need to be a bad and negative thing. You just have to shift your mindset and have a different perspective about what's happening in your life.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And it's also, which I think sometimes people may find it hard to say or think about it, but it is like you're releasing an old part of your life. Like that part is kind of like dying, and it's not a bad thing that it dies. It's like it's done, it's over with, and you're moving on to this new person of yourself. And these kind of big changes, like moving in houses and stuff, I feel like it is that too, right? It's you going into a new lifestyle,
Mhm.
and and sometimes it also comes with for reasons like you are wanting to change, and it's like other bigger things, and sometimes those bigger things make you want to be in a different house, for example. Like sometimes you want to do a full revamp, right? It's like,
Yes, exactly.
and it's just nice because you're just wanting to completely become a new person. And it's like you do have to realize that new person means that that old person is technically dying, but don't think of it as a bad thing. It's like releasing it with
Yeah.
it is dying, but it's you're grateful that you had that life because
Yes.
you learned what you need for now, but it's allowing it to go,
Yeah.
and that yes is dead, it's gone, because now you are becoming this new person and you're transforming into this new life, this new version of you.
Yeah, I love that. That's so important to also make that distinction, because I mean, especially people who are going from maybe a smaller home to a bigger home, or vice versa, right? Just depending on what your needs are and why you're moving. It's you're really taking on a whole new identity. You're leaving behind old patterns, old programming, old stagnant energy that you might have had in this one home that contained so much good, so much maybe some heartache, like every emotion you can possibly think of, especially for us that's lived here for 14 years. Two of my daughters were born straight from the hospital, came straight here. This is the only house they've really ever known. So it's like peacefully and calmly saying goodbye to that part of you, and like allowing it to move through that emotion gracefully. So which I just thought of right now, that came to my mind, is I'm going to write like a release letter, like thanking the house for everything that it's provided me with and who I grew into over the last 14 years, for my children's well-being, for keeping us safe and protected as we move on to this next chapter. Because I think moving is one of those, it is a major like life thing, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, it is.
a major life
Especially
change.
guys,
Yeah.
you have the family or you have like the memories there, right? And what do we say about memories? Emotions are a record. Emotions are a record of your memories,
Yes,
right? So it's
exactly.
like you're seeing everything in the house, and it's bringing back all those good memories, all those bad memories. It brings back everything. And actually, you know what's another one that I found out was really cool? So you know what wisdom is? Wisdom is uh, releasing the emotions from the memories. So
Oh,
not allowing, so having that separation between like you have the memory and not letting those memories control you not letting those emotions control you anymore. So it's like
wow.
you have those memories there, but you've learned to detach from it, and those emotions don't control you anymore. And that usually happens in the sense of like that, like if you have a grudge against someone,
Yes,
right? Holding you
it
back.
is
But if you
holding me back.
finally release it, those emotions, and you're like, this happened to me, but you're not like, getting
Yeah,
annoyed just thinking about it. And it could even be 10, 15 years ago, you don't even see the person, but that person's name just gives you, you're still attached to that. It's still affecting you. It's giving you some sort of limiting belief
yes.
that you don't even realize how much it's affecting you now. So
Mhm.
that wisdom is learning about yourself of how to detach from that. That's the wisdom.
I
So
love
I
that.
don't know. I get so much into mindset, like overly too much. I'm always reading a book, obviously, in my things. I'm always wanting to improve. But
Me
this
too.
these last couple of weeks have been. I to be honest, don't think I've been working. All I've been doing is reading books. Like it's all about, oh my God. Like I've just been obsessed. That's why when you said for this topic, I was just like, let's do it. I'm like, because I think obviously I'm working a lot on it. I feel like I'm wanting to go through a new phase of my life. I know I've been kind of stuck on some emotions.
Yeah,
That's why when you said it, I'm like, I'm stuck on some emotions. I know I'm not moving forward because my emotions are giving me my limiting beliefs, and I'm
yeah,
getting stuck. And so I went into this like hermit phase of like I just need to read, and obviously practice, practice,
yeah.
practice. Reading does not mean anything without actually practicing. But I've been, and this no power of now. I don't know. It's just me because I'm very much in that mode of I need to work on my emotions, my attitude. I need to just break out of it and stop those limiting beliefs that I've just been very obsessed with it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I think there could never be too much, right? The more we read, the more we absorb this information and material. All it does is just expanding our awareness. Like the more you expand your awareness, like the more your consciousness grows. So you're able to really look at life from like a detached place. A lot of people get emotionally tied to things of the past 100%. So again, using my example, because I moved once, if I look back in my past to search for that emotion and keep it tied to, oh my gosh, I remember 12 years, 14 years ago, I moved and it was the worst experience. It was this, it was that, it was da 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 da. That is what I'm holding in the present. And that's not fair. That's not fair to me, to my soul, to hold on to something that's already gone. Like I'm a different version of myself right now. I'm a different person in this moment. So I have to look at it with fresh new eyes and a fresh new experience. But a lot of people, this is where they get tripped up, right? With anything that they do in life, they search for that emotion of the past. That, oh, so and so's done this to me, so I see them now, but that could have been like 3 years ago, and you're complete different people, but you haven't let go. So it keeps you there, stuck, tied there. And when you think about it, all it's doing is bringing up that same feeling as you were living it 3,
And it
5,
brings
10,
that
15 years ago.
barrier. So you haven't
Yes.
actually grown from it.
Right.
And like that, wisdom, what is it? Figuring out how to release that emotion from that memory.
Exactly. Exactly. And then, looking at it from I can't even think of the word right now. The other side, if you're focusing on the future and you're focusing on, okay, well, I haven't moved yet, but I'm thinking about all these other things that's going to happen, that's going to take place. I'm creating something that hasn't even happened, not even knowing that if it's even going to go like that. So why create fear, worry, doubt for something that hasn't even happened? Like, so the power of now is so important when it comes to moving, when it comes to doing anything in your life. Like I read so many things that talk about being in the present. This is why it's a gift. This is why we are given this moment in front of us right now, because this is where our mind, this is the only thing we can control. We
And
can't
that's
control.
pieces, actually. That's where pieces, because if you're not thinking, right, and you're just focused on getting your stuff done, and you're because thinking really a lot of it is when you start thinking, you're either thinking in the past about, like you said, like things that have happened to us, or we're thinking of the future and we're stressed, right? It's either we're worried about things, or we're stressed, or there's a fear about things. But when you're in the now and you're actually focused on, like, let's say that example we're giving of washing that dish,
Yes.
and you're just in the now, it's actually also gives you a sense of peace, because really when we're not in harmony, when we're not in peace, because our mind is somewhere else and not in the present moment.
Exactly. And I think that, and then we start living from fight or flight. If we're constantly stressed about what happened, what has yet to happen, we're not focusing on the now. And I've been listening to this incredible podcast, from this guy, David Breyer, that really is talking about like living from your parasympathetic nervous system, where you are in a state of flow and ease and joy. And I think the best way to do that is to focus on the present moment and what you can control. Because if you're constantly reminiscing, and sometimes that reminiscing can go, good or bad, but if you're still stuck there with, even if it is good, and you're thinking about the future, I mean, you're constantly in this loop. Either one doesn't exist. The past is gone. It only lives in your mind because it's gone. It's literally gone. You can't jump back. You can't change it. And the future hasn't happened yet. So again, that doesn't exist either. All that exists is like this moment. And we're so focused on, thinking about the past and the present, we do forget and tend to not be able to live right now
Yeah,
in the
we're
power
missing
of now.
now.
We are
It's like
missing.
you're missing all the experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. And then it causes like emotions that don't feel good when you are like worried about what's to come, worried about what has happened. And then you don't really get to enjoy, what you should be feeling in this moment and be able to, and this is what the work is, right? Like redirecting yourself, being able to pull yourself back when you start to spiral, because the mind, it's going to happen, like until you get to a place where it's so easy to do, or it becomes so automatic. It's a constant like becoming aware of your thoughts. What am I thinking? Oh, nope, I don't want to go there, and redirecting it, because we have that power. We have the power to change our thoughts in the moment that it's happening, but people don't know how to do that. So they just will continue down the spiral. So one thought will turn into another thought, will turn into another thought. The next thing you know, you're like freaking out about something that hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah, or yeah, exactly. Even the mind, separating yourself from it and like watching it. A lot of people think that they are their mind, and then if
Yeah.
they
Are
are
their
their
thoughts.
mind, maybe then they don't think that they have control over it, or not that really they don't have control, but they think that their mind is them. And so really the mind is controlling them instead of you controlling your mind. So if your mind says, oh, if you want that, you yourself are telling yourself like, I want to lose some weight, and then your mind says, have that ice cream. You're like, okay.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
My mind says I can do it. So it's
Or
just
it will like
having that
it will,
separation
yeah.
of mind and you, and watching it. And even just that awareness at the beginning is so important, of just watching yourself. Maybe you're still doing what your mind says, but you start noticing like, oh, I have another voice that tells me not to do it.
Yeah.
Like people like to compare it as like the devil and the angel, but it's really the mind and you, and who is going to who is taking the control. Are you letting your mind take the control, or are you going to take the driver's seat and just not let it happen anymore? I say what it is. I make this decision, so I'm doing it. Because there's actually two decisions that are being made always. There's, you make the decision, for example, like, I want to lose weight, but if you notice, a lot of people say it, but it doesn't happen. Why? Because you have the second decision. That second decision is your body taking those actions.
Yeah.
So decision. A lot of people think, oh, like I said I'm going to do this, but it didn't happen. It's because you didn't take the action.
Yeah.
To get it done.
Exactly. So to sum up what you said in like a technical kind of way, the conscious mind is really like, I want to lose the weight, I want to lose the weight. But if you have not like embodied that of what losing weight is and really make it like sink into your subconscious mind, because that's where the patterns are. So all the patterns, all the eating habits, all the drinking, whatever habits you have is in the subconscious mind. So consciously, we always want things. We want to be more rich, we want to be more this, we want to lose weight. But if that idea has not been impressed upon the subconscious mind, then your results are not going to then be that of losing weight. Or if it is, it'll be very temporary, because then your mind will be like, it's okay. Just eat the ice cream. Don't worry, you can start again tomorrow. Don't worry, you don't need to take that walk. You're already comfortable. Oh, look, it's too hot outside. The mind really hasn't caught up, because it's like the primal state of our mind, right? That hunting and gathering back in the days where it really tried to protect us from danger. But the problem is somehow our minds haven't, there's something, even though all this time has gone by.
Right?
Yeah,
it doesn't
changed.
It's like, oh my God, this is limiting the amount of food that's going in my body. It's like, but I don't know what happens. And then it's an unknown to your body, right? Your body's like, you're doing something different. I don't know what the results are of that. I want to say something
like,
what I know.
Down.
Yeah.
Yes. So it wants to protect us, but we have to understand that it's going to tell us whatever it needs to tell us from us, like not taking the action, but not realizing, the mind doesn't realize that the action that we need to take is going to support us. Not eating the burger because we've always eaten the burger and it's felt so good and it's just what we're used to. So really like differentiating those voices.
Yeah.
If you're,
because like you said, the mind doesn't know the difference between good and bad. You can be, I'm ready to change my life in a positive sense and in something that's going to better but your mind doesn't know. All it knows is what it's doing right now.
Yes.
And it's like, I know this, that's all I care about.
Yeah.
It doesn't know anything of positive, negative. So if you're like, I want to start doing this or I want to start doing that, your body's like, hell no. I want to stay what I know with, because that's an unknown area like that's an unknown area. So they're gonna stop, and that's where that you have to stop your mind and slowly build up that tolerance, because it's very hard. I'm working on it right now. Hard.
I think we all are. Don't even worry. But you're aware, right? Like that's the difference between like understanding the mind, understanding who you are as a person, because you can start to then figure out why am I not getting the results that I truly want, right? My mind, like you have to be greater almost than your mind and what it's telling you, especially when like the body too, like the mind isn't the body's the instrument of the mind. So like for me, I used to like get these cravings all of a sudden at 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, oh, I'm just like, I'm hungry. Should I eat? And then of course my mind's like, yeah, it's okay. Just have those chips. Like no one's going to know. You'll be fine. Whereas like my body is sending a signal, which I'm not even really hungry. And then my mind's like confirming it. So it's like I have to be stronger and be like, no, no, like you sometimes have to speak it out loud. And like people may think you're crazy. It's okay. Just stand firm. No, I am not eating at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Stop. And if you really like are, if that conviction is strong, the chatter will stop in your mind and you'll focus on something else and you'll be totally distracted from what it was trying to do. Because like you said, the mind doesn't know if eating the burger is good for you or if it's bad for you. All it knows is that
Okay, you
it's
eat that
comfort.
burger.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right? But not when you're trying to lose weight. The mind doesn't know you're trying to lose weight. It's just like, why am I getting these vegetables? Oh, no, no, this is something so foreign. You got to just be safe. And eating these vegetables are not safe for you. So go back to the burger, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Completely agree. It's always that separation. I mean, it doesn't have to take time for a break that makes the change, but once you, like you said, bring that awareness to it, it does make it easier to actually make the change once you start paying attention to what's happening to you. I feel like it makes it a bit easier because you don't feel like you're battling yourself anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, what I was gonna say was what I like to say to myself, although probably now it's changing my thoughts a little bit, but I kind of like both because sometimes you feel like you don't control your mind, and sometimes like I like to say I'm in control of my body, and I have to I
Ooh.
have to say the same thing as you. Like I have to sometimes say it out loud and sternly, like
Mhm.
I'm in control of my body. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Because it's just like I've had it with my mind or something.
It
But
is.
in the power of now, what I like too also is that like that if you are, for example, let's say even if related to eating and you're in the middle of, let's say, cooking something, you're focused on that cooking, on like that healthy, like that healthy meal that you want to make or something. And because you're so focused on, let's say, finding that recipe, you're not thinking of the burger, you're pushing that away. Or even if, like you're saying, let's say it's the middle of the night, because those are, I feel like everyone struggles with that too. It's like those cravings, but then all of a sudden you put that focus on what you're actually doing. You're like, I'm not hungry. I'm going to focus on paying attention to what I'm watching on TV,
Yeah.
on what I'm reading, on what I'm studying.
Yeah.
It's like put that focus, like you said. For example, I've started noticing myself like my stomach isn't even growling for hunger. It's perfectly fine. My mind just like, you want to eat something, so just do it. And I'm
Exactly.
just like, oh God, get to reading or like that. If I can't even control the being in the now part, then it's like all of a sudden I have to like discipline my mind. I'm in
Yeah.
control.
It is. It is. It's so important. And we're not saying like deprive yourself. Like it's okay to do it once in a while. But if you are focused and have like, goals that you're setting for yourself and you're not supposed to like eat late at night, like, like coming back to why, remembering why. Don't just let, your mind just tell you to do anything. Um, the awareness is huge. The awareness is just, a game changer once you start to become aware of your mind, of your thoughts, of who you're being in the moment. So like coming back to, when you're moving, right? If you're somebody that already is like anxious all the time, some tips for you is to, understand where you are in the moment. Understand that the task will get done. Like you're not going to sell your house and, still have your boxes in there. Like the task will get done and find ways that can make the situation easier to grasp instead of like looking at it from like the wide angle, narrow it down piece by piece.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to
And
ask
I think for
you.
anxious people,
No, go ahead. I wanted to ask you something.
oh, I was just going to say for anxious people, because sometimes, thinking in the future is what makes me anxious instead of
Yes.
doing that. Or, I mean, still thinking of the future, but thinking of, instead of the negative things,
Yeah.
think of how, like, the amazing things that will come out of it instead, because sometimes anxiety is that looking into the future. And so it's looking at the positive things. And I have a nice view of house and just focusing on the positive things that are going to come out of it. And sometimes you may not believe them, but you got to go further into those positive beliefs and just kind of ram it in your mind.
Yeah. And you know, that's what I was gonna say too. A couple of days last week, I did a post about something similar like that, like just kind of bringing your mind to focus. And somebody had just kind of put on like, you know, it's easier said than done, which is true. But it becomes a practice. And if you start to, you know, slowly start to tell yourself something different, it can build momentum, even if it's the smallest thing. Because you're right, for people who are anxious, that's a belief that now that they carry as part of their identity. So you'll hear a lot of people be like, oh, like they'll label themselves, right? But remember, the more you label yourself, it really becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you're telling yourself this one thing about yourself, it'll start to show up in your life in that exact same way. So if you are somebody that's claimed or labeled yourself as anxious or worried or I don't know what's going to happen, you know, they're going to have a difficult time focusing on something that's positive. Mm-hmm. So for those people, especially, you know, maybe write out one thing every single day that you can commit to and focus on that one belief. You know, like you said, the move is going to be, it's going to be easy to move, or I'm really excited about my new home. And look at that, come back to that, have that somewhere in your house that when your mind starts to go in the other direction, you can pull it back. Like figure out what that process is for you. This is just an example of writing it down and having it in your phone, or even putting a reminder in every hour. So that way it's constantly in this like repetition of you focusing on what's good and what's not good.
I completely agree. Yeah. And like you said, I think writing it down or doing every method, to be honest, that you need to. Because, for example, some people really, or even like that, like what I was saying, like sometimes I have to verbally say it out
Yes,
loud because even saying it in my head, it just isn't working because my
it's so
mind is like,
strong. Yeah,
you know, and it's like it's like hard to control it. So sometimes like saying it out loud kind of blocks the mind from saying the negative things
yeah,
in your head. So it's like
yeah.
writing it down. Like sometimes you have to do all of them,
Use
you know, because
all of it.
sometimes you feel like it's a war in
Yeah.
you that's happening. So it's like
But
you
if
got
you
to do it a
want
day.
that, but if you want things to change, like honestly, if you do not want to be focused on feeling down, feeling low, you're vibrating at a different, you know, a frequency at that point, because all you're going to do is bring more of that stuff to you, right? You have to do different things that you've been doing. So stopping the thought, like you said, speaking it out loud as much as you can. No, stop. Like, you know, I trust that my decision is the right one. Or, you know, I'm a person, like whatever that statement is for you, say it out loud, because the mind can be so loud, it can be so direct. You have to be the one giving it a command.
And especially when it's been so much time that it's been untrained,
Yes.
right? It's like you have to be louder and be forgiving of yourself
Yeah.
because obviously so many years of it being untrained and now you're training it. It's
Yes.
like time to get it going, but knowing that you can do it. It is possible to get it done. You can take control. It just takes persistence.
Yes, I love that. All of the things. And it's a journey worth traveling, because when you start to train your mind, like your life can really shift in such a beautiful direction, right? It's all of these things that like, you know, I'm learning all of this now. If I had known all of this when I was younger, like it would have been a game changer. If you can start to
Yeah,
do
can
the
you
things now.
imagine the kind of
Oh,
people we would be? I remember I
no.
always say that. I'm like, why isn't this fun in school? Like, I can't imagine how amazing of a person I could be if it was like taught in elementary school. I was like, how much people in general would be so much more advanced in life because this was taught in school.
I think they'd just be happier and making like decisions out of love from their soul's purpose rather from fear and worry, doubt, anxiety, and their ego. But such as that, like I, you know, at the same time, things aren't revealed to us, you know, until that time is right for us to be able to really then take those messages and say, okay, yeah, I'm ready to expand my mind. Because obviously it would have shown up for us years ago, right?
Mhm.
Yes, we weren't ready. The matrix was perfect where we were. And then you step out of it and you're like, wow. This is so much better.
It is. Once you start with these realizations, there's no turning back, and it's a really fun road, I have to say.
I wanted to ask you,
And like that, I don't know, you become even more obsessive about it. You're
yeah,
just like, how can I become even better? How can I become
yes.
better? How can I evolve? Or like, what can I do? You know, you become like, I feel like I become a little test subject. I was like, what can I make Diana do now? You know?
Yeah, because and you don't stop. Like you keep going down and traveling this path, and all it's doing is just making you like you're allowed to live the best life possible. But it starts with within you. And the more you're on that journey to self-discovery and yeah, what can I do better? What can I change? How can I do this? How can I improve? You're just going to be a better person. You're just going to have a better experience of life than somebody that's not willing to take responsibility for their actions or look at the world from a perspective that things happen for them and not to them. You're not in the victim mentality, right? Like huge, like complete, like we're all living on this earth, but we're all having complete different experiences of it based on how we see the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
I wanted to
Well,
ask you, what is one lesson you took away from the Florence Scovel Shinn book? The game, How Do I Play the Game of Life?
of life. I mean, oh my God, I feel like it was the power of the word. Yeah, words are so
Oh,
important. That was actually words are one that I really like. Though there's one chapter I was obsessed with. Oh, the law of karma and the law of forgiveness. That one was amazing. Uh, like we all live in polarities. I mean, like, sorry, everything has a polarity, and 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 then it really talks about cause and effect,
mm,
and it tells like you can actually break cause and effect by forgiveness, and it explains it really well how. And it's but basically what we're talking about before that's detachment. What I was saying, wisdom is like wisdom, you have the emotion, you have a memory, and you have the emotions attached to it. Once you learn to separate the two and you just see that memory, that's when you become wise. Kind of the same thing is that also, I guess, to do that, you have to forgive, kind of a thing, right?
yeah.
So it talks about instead of tit for tat, you stop and you decide to forgive is when you finally stop all the negative things happening to you is
Hmm.
because you've decided to detach yourself from it. And from that is also the emotions that, right? You have to remove
Yeah.
those emotions from that situation for you to be able to just forgive and move on and not let it go. So that was my favorite chapter.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm actually really looking forward to reading that book. I'm reading a book right now called Three Magic Words by a man named Ulysses Anderson. And like I got it was super intimidating yesterday when I opened it up, but there's like, I'm on the first page because I was tired last night at like 11 o'clock at night trying to read. But it was already so powerful. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to reread this in the daytime when I'm not feeling tired, but
Mhm.
so powerful. And there's so many lessons in these books for us to, live this amazing life that we've been given, right? Like we take
Mhm.
everything, a lot of people take everything for granted. I've recently, learned about the power of forgiveness. And it was funny, a couple of weeks ago, I came across somebody's post that, said like it was like a meme and it showed like two people walking by each other. And the caption was like, oh, I don't care if you're like a family member, coworker, friend. If I stop talking to you, don't ever think I'll talk to you again. And I'm like, it glorified holding grudges. That's
Yeah.
what I took it as. And I'm
And
like,
the lack of
that's nothing to
wisdom, right?
glorify.
Because you haven't learned anything. You're not dealing with the situation.
Yes, exactly,
It's very
exactly.
interesting when you start learning all this stuff, and you really start hearing people's words. No, you're just like, can we do it? Say it.
I do it all the time. I know I'm like, oh my goodness, like, even me, like I try to be so conscious of like what I say, how I say it. Like I get tripped up because it's like I want to say something, but like the only way sometimes to say it is to like use like something in like a lack sense. But I'm like, it's so
Yeah, because you
crazy.
want to like that. You want to stay in the positive mindset, but then sometimes it's just like actually another one that I really love, but it talks about what enlightenment is, and he actually uses the negative um, for the definition of enlightenment. to say? I forget. Actually, I have it in here somewhere. Oh, it's okay. Where is it? Oh, Buddha, the end of suffering. That's what enlightenment is. And they specifically talk about that, he spoke about in the negative, that ending suffering is what enlightenment is.
Wow.
And there's a reason that, and this is obviously his hypothesis on it, but he thinks the reason the Buddha said that is because he didn't want to put it, because that positive side is so much. There's so much to what that could mean, and it can be different for different people. So he just wanted to basically leave it open for your curiosity, for you to figure out what does not suffering mean to you.
Yeah,
So he
so
knew
true.
that sometimes the negatives are good because it's just like now you figure out what that means for you, because now you don't want to suffer what was suffering for you. How can you remove that from your life?
I love that. And that's a great thing to leave everybody with. So I want to tie it back to our original topic again, the moving and cultivating a positive mindset when you're faced with like a life challenge, such as moving. If you're quote unquote suffering from anxiety of feeling like it's a lot and it's too much and how am I going to get through this, become aware of what that is and know that you're doing it to yourself through your thoughts. So to change how you feel, it's really by changing the thoughts that you have, because our thoughts create an emotion, and emotion creates, our action or inaction, really. So start thinking and cultivating thoughts that's going to support a feeling that's going to help you get through the move or the life challenge that you're experiencing.
The way
And
you want
remember,
that thing to happen.
yeah, exactly. Everything happens for us. Like, if you have that belief instilled in you, you will start to see why things happen for you. Like, it will be clear as day, especially since we connect the dots looking backwards.
100%. Jacqueline, thank you so much. We always have so much fun chatting about mindset. We can always, I feel like, talk about it forever. If you guys love what you heard from Jacqueline, she will be tagged in here. You'll be able to see what she's up to. She also has her profile on REI FAM, so you can even read more about her over there. And if you love what you heard from me, same thing, follow me. Or check me out on REI FAM. And Jacqueline, thank you so much.
Oh my God. Thank you. This has been amazing. Have an amazing rest of the month. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you all the next episode. Bye.